Brother Ron, and welcome to We All Be News Radio and TV, the news-free Dixie for the 21st century.
To all the inmates, how they got here. I said, I'm telling you, I said, I'm a counselor, man. I got the right to inform how they got out here. You know, boy, I get caught.
Rhythm was his business, business so was well. Rhythm was his business, we need this story to tell. Jimmie Lunceford is the man with the plan. Can't remember when. This is why we're here, folks. I'm Brother Ron, also known as R2C2H2 the Artivist, and this is a great day, June 6, 2022, marks the 120th Life Affirmation Day, posthumously, of James Melvin Lunceford, the father of jazz music education. He's somewhere in my blue heaven, but we are here to make sure that his legacy get told to the next generation. And I'm your guide for this moment. We're live in the Elmwood Cemetery, the oldest historic cemetery in Memphis, Tennessee. You can tell the story of Memphis in this cemetery. A lot of prominent, famous, infamous, interesting people are buried here. One of these people happens to be James Melvin Lunceford, the father of jazz music education. He started a tradition that has benefited the whole world, but a lot of people don't know his song. Who is this James Melvin Lunceford, known as Jimmie Lunceford? That people think, according to people like Glenn Miller said it best. He said that Duke is great, Count is remarkable, but Lunceford tops them both. How can a man who is bigger than Duke Ellington and Count Basie be forgotten about so many decades later? Almost 75 years after his passing. He passed away under questionable circumstances in Seaside, Oregon back on July 12, 1947 at the age of 45 years young. See, there's the issue. Duke and Count lived to be in their 70s. So they lived long enough for people to catch up and give them their flowers. Jimmie never had a chance to whiff his flowers. He got taken away from us all too soon. So let's talk about Mr. Lunceford. Well, Mr. Lunceford was born June 6, 1902, down in Fulton, Mississippi. Not really in Fulton. It was a community outside Fulton called Evergreen Community, where black folks own a lot of land. His parents owned over 70 acres of land, and his grandparents owned over 300 acres of land down there. And to this day, his descendants, his relatives, they still own the land. They own a lot of the land. They built their homes on the land. You know, they still got property down there. Black Black land matters, black land ownership matters, right? But Jimmie did not grow up in Mississippi. His folks left Mississippi, first went to Oklahoma, then they went to Denver, Colorado. That's where he was raised. So it's interesting. Jimmie Lunceford, like, you know, I always say black history is better than science fiction or a Hollywood movie. Jimmie Lunceford's music teacher was a guy named Wilberforce Whiteman. He was a white man. His name was Wilberforce Whiteman. He was the music superintendent of the Denver schools. He believed that every child, regardless of color, should have a right to a music education. His son was Paul Whiteman, who was crowned the king of jazz. He was a white man too, but he actually commissioned George Gershwin, who was inspired by black musicians like James Reese Europe and other people. Lucky Roberts was his master teacher, to write Rhapsody in Blue. He commissioned George Gershwin to write Rhapsody in Blue, but his father taught two of the most important swing band leaders that were black from Denver. One was Jimmie Lunceford, the other one was Andy Kirk. He's some of the top swing band leaders of the 30s and 40s, was taught by this guy named Wilberforce Whiteman, whose son was Paul Whiteman. So we know more about Paul Whiteman. He's more remembered because, like, once again, like they say, the good die young. So he lived decades more than Jimmie, just like Duke and Count. So Jimmie Lunceford actually went back below the Mason-Dixon line to get his college education at Fisk University. So he went to Fisk. I believe it was class of 1926. He was a proud Fisk man. And Jimmie Lunceford was also gifted athletically. He was a phenomenal athlete. He was like a Golden Gloves level boxer. He ran track and field. He played football and baseball and basketball. But his love was music. And he actually majored in social work at Fisk University. And what's interesting, like I said, black history is better than science fiction or Hollywood movie. His love was Yolanda Du Bois. She was the daughter of Dr. W.E.B. Du Bois, the first black person alleged to get a PhD from Harvard University, Harvard. So even though he was a Fisk man like Jimmie Lunceford, he did not approve of the relationship. He actually arranged for his daughter to get married to County Cullen, who was the poet laureate of the Harlem Renaissance. He was like a prodigy, like what the Williams sisters are to tennis or Tiger Woods to golf. He was a prodigy. But come to find out, you know, this was the wedding of the decade, of the black decade of the Harlem Renaissance. Come to find out, he was more interested in his best man than his woman. You know, his best man was Harold Jackman, who was known as the finest man in Harlem. He was a school teacher and a model. You could judge for yourself, just Google up Harold Jackman and see, you know, he thought he was fine, whatever. So they, you know, got their marriage, annulled, whatever like that. She ended up marrying a second time, but not to Jimmie Lunceford. And for the rest of his short life, Jimmie Lunceford always pined for the love of Yolanda Du Bois. That was the love of his life, but he had to move on. So after he graduated from Fisk, I think he went to Teachers College up in Columbia, up in New York City. He came back and taught at Manassas High School. Now Manassas is the first black high school fully accredited in Shelby County, Tennessee. Now the first black high school, of course, was what we now know as Booker T. Washington High School. But it wasn't fully accredited. You know, Manassas was accredited through the Rosenwald Foundation. It was a Rosenwald school. So he had, you know, from grades 9 to 12, but he was not hired to be a band director. He was hired to be the gym coach, track, I think taught English and Spanish, a little bit everything but music. But he majored in social work, and he knew that music could be used as a rites of passage to help black boys and girls become black men and women. So he used that, and he actually helped instill community pride. So from my understanding is he got help from the parents, from the community, to raise money for instruments and whatnot. He is actually credited with being the first person in the world to teach jazz studies in a formal educational setting. He did this as a volunteer. Now he's basically like, it's like if you got a hip hop study class right now in high school and you teaching that. That's how revolutionary it was, because it was the popular art form. This is the most popular music, was jazz at that time. So he taught his students. They had formed a popular dance band called the Chickasaw Syncopators. So they was known throughout the city, you know, played for a lot of enthusiastic crowds and whatnot. And also he was a master at radio promotion. You know what? I mean, he would be a master in social media right now. He knew how to promote himself via the social media at the time, which was the radio. So he actually left Memphis. I'm gonna tell you, like, Memphis is interesting because we known for blues and rock and roll, but it's a jazz haven. It's like one of the most important jazz cities in the country. for the development of jazz. This for the fact that, number one, Louis Armstrong's wife is from Memphis. Lil Hardin Armstrong was born here February 3rd, 1898. She was the woman that made Louis Armstrong a superstar. She was the one that saw him. She played for his mentor, King Oliver, up in Chicago on piano, and she forced him to quit King Oliver, sent him to New York to the greatest jazz band at the time, Fletcher Henderson, at the Roseland Ballroom. This is the same ballroom that Lady Gaga closed down several years ago. So that's how long it's been around. So he sent him to Fletcher Henderson, and he became, you know, but when he went to New York, the greatest jazz trumpet player was a guy from Memphis named Johnny Dunn, who was born and raised here, and he was in W.C. Handy Band. So he was the top trumpet player in New York before Louis got there. Old Satchmo got that knocked off a little bit on his perch. Yeah. So, but then he was in Fletcher Henderson Band, and one of the best clarinetists and reed men of that time was a guy named Buster Bailey, and he was born and raised in Memphis. He used to play for W.C. Handy. So he go out to Chicago, he got a Memphis woman, and then like orchestra, he played for the Erskine Tate Orchestra at the Vendome Theater, a very popular orchestra. Erskine Tate is from where? Where he from? He's from Memphis, born and raised, and who he played for? He played for W.C. Handy, who was from Florence, Alabama, but he's not from Memphis. But all these Memphis folks he ran into helped elevate him into what we know as Satchmo and Louis Armstrong. Then Charlie Parker Dead is from Memphis. Y'all know that, right? Charlie Parker Dead, he got Clarksdale, Mississippi roots, but Charlie Parker Dead is from here. So when Miles Davis said you could describe the history of jazz in 4 words, he said Louis Armstrong, Charlie Parker, they all Memphis connected. And also, Miles Davis talked about in his autobiography that his hero was Jimmie Lunceford. He used to listen to him on the radio, broadcast from the Cotton Club live in East St. Louis. Matter of fact, not only just Miles Davis, Horace Silver, who we just lost not too long ago, and Quincy Jones, said that their music heroes was Jimmie Lunceford growing up. So, you know, they was influenced by this guy. So, he left here in also, Mary Lou Williams used to live in Memphis back in the 20s. Y'all know who Mary Lou Williams is, or was? Mary Lou Williams is the godmother of modern jazz. You know, basically bebop. She helped, she was the doula, or what do you call it, doula, the midwife for bebop. Everybody used to come to her apartment in New York and meet and discuss all the music theory, like Charlie Parker, Dizzy Gillespie, Thelonious Monk, all them guys. But she was a dear friend of Jimmie Lunceford because she married a Memphis man named John Overton Williams. He played saxophone. He's from Memphis. And guess who he played for? He played for Jimmie Lunceford's classmate, Andy Kirk, the one who was trained by Wilberforce Whiteman. So you got all this stuff run through Memphis. Mary Lou Williams, I mean, she is so important to the development of modern jazz and American music. Lil Hardin Armstrong arguably is the mother of modern music because she helped organize the Hot 5 and Hot 7 recordings, which is the Rosetta Stone for not only jazz, but also American popular music. So these are all Memphis connected folk. But yet they don't talk about that. You know, Memphis is not known as a jazz town, all that stuff. But without Memphis, you don't have jazz. That's why I'm making a point of. It's not just New Orleans, you got Pittsburgh, you got a lot of different places that help, but Memphis is a very important distribution hub, that's what I'm saying. So Jimmie left here in 1930 with his best high school students, right? And he had his buddies from Fisk University. One was a Willie Smith. Willie Smith, one of the greatest alto swing altoists of that era. We had the Big Three. You had Johnny Hodges, Duke Ellington Orchestra, Rabbit, and you had that syrupy sound, made the women, the panty dropper. Like he had used to play. You got to listen to Prelude to a Kiss, you know, you understand why. Then you had Benny Carter, the great multi-instrumentalist. Benny Carter was a great altoist, and then you had Willie Smith. But Willie Smith was a combination between Benny Carter and Johnny Hodges. He had a perfect balance, and Charlie Parker was greatly influenced by Willie Smith. Because there's a myth saying that Jimmie Lunceford didn't have no great soloists. He did. They just knew how to play like a team better than most people, and had one of the best sounds of that era and arguably of all time. So he left Memphis in 1930. 4 years later, he is the house band at the Cotton Club after Duke Ellington and Cab Calloway. Then his sound becomes so popular, it's the Lunceford 2 beat, that he becomes the most popular attraction at the Apollo Theater for a whole decade. These some black dudes from North Memphis. They the #1 attraction at the Apollo Theater for a whole decade. They helped integrate the Paramount Theater, which introduced the world to Frank Sinatra a couple of decades or so later. So I mean, so this guy was making some powerful moves, and he had the sound that everybody wanted, including Glenn Miller, who said it once again. He said that Duke is great, count is remarkable, but Lunceford tops them both. He beats them out because Glenn Miller based his sound on Jimmie Lunceford. A lot of them white boys wanted that sound. They paid top dollar for his arrangers to get that sound. So like Jimmie Lunceford was the guy. And he was the most popular, let me reiterate this, most popular dance band for black people in the whole country. It wasn't Duke Ellington, it wasn't Count Basie. As great as they are great. It was Jimmie Lunceford. He had a distinctive two-beat. I mean, he just had a sonic quality to his sound that really is a part of the Memphis sound tradition. It just didn't start at Stax or Royal or with 3 6 Mafia. It started with Jimmie Lunceford, and even before him. It predates him, because this is the Mississippi Delta. So, also Jimmie Lunceford was an aviation pioneer, which is interesting because they didn't want black folks to eat at integrated lunch counters back then, let alone fly high in the friendly skies. So this man basically took flying lessons in the late 30s. By 1940, he brought his first airplane for what would be like $500,000 in today's money during the Great Depression. So you had a black man that was able to buy an airplane that would cost $500,000 today during the Great Depression. So he was making some pretty good money. You know, he was the king of the battle of the bands. We constantly beat all the best, black and white, all comers. They call him king of the battle of the bands because he had that sound that everybody wanted to dance to. Also, why are we here? Why he buried here? No matter how big he got, he always had a love for Memphis. He never forgot about Memphis. When he would sell out on Bill Street, whether it be church, auditorium, or whatever, he would always go back to Manassas and do free concerts and musician clinics for the kids there. One person he influenced was a guy named Mr. Emerson Abel Jr. If not the greatest, one of the greatest band directors we ever saw in the city. He was greatly influenced by Jimmie Lunceford's saxophone man, tenor man from Kansas City named Joe Thomas. So he really caught his imagination. I believe Mr. Abel's father is buried not too far away from me. I thought that was him at first. But I saw he was alive at the time. He said, "You thought that was me, didn't you?" I said, "Nah, okay, unless you're a ghost or something, or a spook." But I think his father went to Manassas when Jimmie Lunceford was teaching there, and he just admired Jimmie Lunceford, I guess based on what his father told him about Jimmie, and also just listened to him for himself. Mr. Abel was part of the rhythm bumming band at Manassas, but also he's the co-founder of the Southern Heritage Classic. That people don't know. It was actually founded in his living room because he also was a college band director at one point, Mr. Emerson Abel, right? He was alumni of Tennessee State University. He actually got a swimming scholarship to Tennessee State. He was very like a Renaissance man. The man was one of the best swimmers in the state of Tennessee. You know, a lot of us don't know how to swim, but Mr. Abel knew how to swim. That little guy, he swam like a tadpole. But anyway, so getting back to Lunceford's story, he would always start music education programs to keep black kids out of trouble. That's what he would do. And like I said, he was always giving back, but also because he was a social worker, he took the village concept. Like, he not only helped the young folks develop into responsible men and women, but also by the time he died, he was looking to buy real estate to start a retirement community for black musicians. So he was looking at the whole village concept of everything. So it's unfortunate that on July 12, 1947, Mr. Lunceford passed away under questionable circumstances at this beach resort town in called Seaside, Oregon. Seaside, Oregon is located in Oregon. A lot of people don't know that Oregon, before it became a state, in the state constitution, it became a state in 1859, 2 years before the Civil War, that it had in its charter that black folks could not live, work, or own property in Oregon. This is 2 years before the Civil War. So you're thinking about Mississippi and Arkansas and Alabama and Georgia, that's Portland. I mean, not Portland, that's Oregon as a whole. So the legend goes that Jimmie Lunceford wanted to eat some hamburgers at this restaurant at this town before a gig at the Bungalow. The gig was called the Bungalow, this place called the Bungalow. It still exists, it's a mall now. I went up there on the 70th anniversary. They did a story on me, that's another story that's an interest, like Twin Peaks up there. But anyway, he argued with the waiter because they didn't want to serve allegedly black people. That's how the story goes. And the management said, "We'll serve y'all." They wanted hamburgers, but they said all we had was beef sandwiches, and there was no Arby's back then. So the Arby's was invented in 1964. So, you know, I don't know what type of beef sandwich they were having, but evidently whatever he had got a lot of the band members sick. Jimmie was actually signing autographs at this music store next to the venue that he was going to perform at, and he dropped dead, allegedly of a heart attack at the age of 45. He had like $1,500 on him for payroll, but that went missing. And nobody ever accounted for that. And that's $1,500 in 1947. So you adjust it for inflation, you know. But anyway, he died his band members did not know he passed until halfway through the performance. So then people said allegedly some of them started getting sick on the bandstand and started throwing up and going to the restroom. I don't really know, but I had talked to a lady who's the historian of that town. I don't know if she's still alive, but I talked to her 5 years ago. She was there that night. So there was stories saying they would not sell tickets to black people to go to the dance. And she said she didn't see no problem with that. But you know, it's like 70-something years ago, but she just really was a big Jimmie Lunceford fan. So I thank her for even telling me a little bit about what happened that night from her perspective 70 years ago. But he had 2 funerals, right? Jimmie was like I said, he was the most popular band leader of his time among black people anyway. He had a funeral up in New York. He lived in White Plains, New York, outside of New York City. He did live on Edgecombe Avenue, you know, all that stuff. Like he was one of the black elites, right? And he loved his people, but he lived in White Plains. And I talked to his another nephew of his. I got a chance to talk to 2 of his surviving nephews. One from his wife's side, the other from his side, that live in Las Vegas. But the one from his wife's side, he actually used to visit Jimmie Lunceford up in New York. And like I said, he flew his own airplanes, right? He lived in White Plains. His neighbors were the Nicholas brothers, the famous tap dancing duo, the Nicholas brothers, then also the Right Reverend Representative Adam Clayton Powell Jr. and his wife Hazel Scott. Hazel Scott was a phenomenal jazz pianist and also one of the first black TV pioneers. She had one of the first black TV shows on TV. And she was brilliant, and you know, people don't even talk about her, but she was one of Adam Clayton Powell Jr.'s wife. Adam Clayton Powell was Dr. King before there was a Dr. King. He was doing stuff in the 30s that Dr. King didn't do until they got into the 50s and the 60s. He's already doing that stuff. And he's probably the greatest politician we ever sent to Washington, D.C. He actually got the job done. You just look up his record. He's like the GOAT. But anyway, his nephew would tell me that he's calling Piggy because Jimmie got so successful, he started gaining weight, you know what I'm saying, and making all that money and stuff. So he used to drive around his Harley Davidson. He used to take his nephew on a ride on his Harley Davidson. He used to take him up in the airplane with his sister. His sister got scared, said take him down right away, but he remembered that. I think he was about 7 years old when Jimmie Lunceford passed away under questionable circumstances. So now we see Jimmie Lunceford allegedly right here. I'm gonna say allegedly. I want to do I'm gonna leave that alone. I ain't gonna talk about exhuming his body to see what's going on. But you know what's interesting? I just discovered a couple months ago, you know, Jimmie Lunceford was real close to H.D. Whelan. He's the patriarch of the Whelan family. You know about Kurt and Kenneth and Kenneth's sons, right? They great musicians, all of them. But his grandfather, Jimmie Lunceford's best friend, was H.D. Whelan. And H.D. Whelan sung at Jimmie Lunceford's funeral. Then on his way home, he got killed in a car accident. That was July 21st, 1947. Jimmie died July 12th, 1947. H.D. died July 21st, 1947. And I didn't know that until recently, like he just buried right over there, just several hundred yards away, feet away from Jimmie Lunceford, his best friend. And you know, you think about that, that's an amazing connection. Like I said, a lot of black history is buried just in this lot, not just all Elmwood Cemetery, but in this lot alone, you got a lot of black history. So you got Sister Theo Bowman. Her grave is just not that far away down there. She was on her way becoming a saint in the church. And this is Black Music Month, and she was a very important person as far as being an advocate for the black music tradition in the church, in the Catholic Church. She made sure that black Catholics became more visible, and their contributions were noted. But she passed away at an early age in her 50s from cancer back in 1990, but she's on her way becoming a saint, and she's right there. And I know when I was going through my health problems earlier this year, I actually just went to a grave and started messing around, played up music and stuff like that, and I got better real quick, so I approve her sainthood. Then you got Robert Churchwright, the first black millionaire of the South, benefactor out of Wells, benefactor of Memphis. Actually got shot in the head in the saloon during the Memphis Race Massacre in 1866, lived to testify before Congress about what happened to him. That was led to the Reconstruction era. What happened in Memphis led to Reconstruction. It had a direct effect on Reconstruction. They when black folks made some phenomenal gains in just a decade. And then they took it all back. We made some amazing strides after slavery that they don't talk about. And then you got Josiah Settles, a prominent lawyer in Memphis, buried right behind the church mausoleum. One of the first black graduates of Howard University class of 1872, buried right behind the church mausoleum. So you got a lot of stuff. Martin Brothers, Negro League pioneers, owners of the Memphis Red Sox, buried right there next to the church mausoleum. And then this community, you know, we know about Statue, right? We know about Aretha Franklin. Her birthplace is here. Like I told y'all earlier, the first all-black Hollywood talkie was filmed in Memphis called Hallelujah in this neighborhood They filmed the baptism scene in a bayou that they filled up. But Nina Mae McKinney was the first Black Hollywood sex symbol. She got a start here in Memphis at 17, I think. And also, June 9th is the birthday of the late great Johnny Ace, John Marshall Alexander, who went to Booker T. Washington. Famous dropout. His family home still here. And the crazy thing about it, Johnny Ace's birthday, he shared the same birthday with Jackie Wilson, who was born in Detroit though, which is interesting, June the 9th. But Johnny Ace was playing around with his gun Christmas night, 1954, doing a concert down in Houston, Texas at the City Auditorium. And he had this side chick, or not his wife, it was his side chick, whatever, on his lap, playing around with the gun. I think Big Mama Thornton, who ain't nothing but a hound dog fame, she said, stop pointing that gun at everybody. Boy, once you didn't point that gun yourself, leave people alone. I don't know if she said it like that, I'm just assuming. But John said, hey man, this gun ain't loaded. I'm gonna show y'all that this gun ain't loaded. It's like some Harlem Night stuff. He pointed the gun, trigger went out. They said he had processed hair. They said his hair stood on end. That was Johnny Otis said. He said his hair stood on end. He was so shocked that he killed himself. But they had his funeral. I know he ain't supposed to be fun, but it happened so long ago. Why not laugh? But his funeral was January the 2nd, 1955 at Claiborne Temple. And he was part of the Bill Streeters. See, if you don't know that, Johnny Ace was an important like rock and roll R&B pioneer. He was like probably the most popular black male singer outside of Fats Domino during the early 50s. You know, if you wanted to get Johnny Ace as your headliner, you had to get either B.B. King, Bobby Blue Bland, or Little Richard as the opening acts. Now, how is it that they his opening acts, but years later, they all in the Hall of Fame. They got everybody in the Hall of Fame. John Ace ain't in nobody's Hall of Fame, except mine, the Jimmie Lunceford Legacy Award. I met his daughter. I talked to his wife on the phone. That was his high school sweetheart. She still was cracking up over losing him, whatever, for whatever reason, those years ago. But I'm gonna tell you something if you don't know. Y'all know who Johnny Ace's granddaughter is. His Legacy, from his side chick, one of his side chicks. And you look at Legacy, look at Johnny Ace, I look at her aunt, his daughter, they all look alike. So you know, that's some strong genes. That's some strong genes in there. Okay? Strong genes. So Memphis is a great place to be from. It's a powerful brand. The birthplace of modern America is Memphis. You think about, there are more recorded songs about Memphis in American music history than any place in the country. You got more songs about Memphis than Chicago, New York, and Los Angeles, anywhere. You know, and everybody comes through Memphis. Even you go down Highway 61 to Clarksdale, there's a town of 17,000 people produce the likes of a Sam Cooke and a Ike Turner and Nate Dogg. Smoke weed every day. He's from Clarksdale. He was part of a gospel family group down there. You had Rick Ross, the rapper from Clarksdale. You had Bessie Smith died at the Riverside Hotel or Motel where Ike Turner wrote Rocket 88, the first rock and roll song. So without further ado, bring Sister Callie Hurd. Oh, somebody, we're gonna do the Wreath Lane. That's about it. God don't like ugly. And thank you, Deborah, Miss Barnes, great gospel family over here. Thank y'all for coming out. So anybody want to do the honors? And also we got, you was 2019 Jimmie Lunceford Legacy Jamboree Homecoming Court Princess. Honored to have you. And we also got a recent inductee, the 2022 Jimmie Lunceford Legacy Award honoree, the one and only sister Paula Newberry. Had an amazing time hosting her backyard opera, very historic, great occasion. It like was pre-COVID times. It was a good time. So we're gonna do, this the thing right here. And while we want to play a little bit as we do the honors, this Squabble Jones, a legendary young Memphis artist. Honor to have him here. So we let Squabble play. Wait, what's the play? Yeah, you get right here, bro.
Excellent. Yeah, you can do it. All right.
So what time is it? Y'all got time? I know.
I got running umbrella right here. Thanks.
Yeah, I'm sweating anyway. I don't care about rain. But I think that that about concludes it. But I also want to make an announcement on Saturday, I wish it was January now though. Saturday, June 11th, we're having an opening for the Fort Pillow Massacre art exhibit on the main gallery on Main Street. Some of the top black artists in this region are going to be properly represented. We're going to be telling our story about what happened April 12, 1864. But also we're going to do a reimagining. What if we was able to keep our 40 acres and the mule? What if they extended Reconstruction? What if we got everything we supposed to get after, we're talking about Juneteenth, but the job ain't finished. Mission ain't accomplished yet. So we're going to reimagine how the world would look if black folks actually got the justice that we deserve, the reparation that we deserve, through our art. Our art will tell the story. It's open to the public. We're going to have a program, surprise guests, and also we're going to have an open mic towards the end so people can express themselves. Mr. Charles White is from Clarksdale. Dude that did Express Yourself song? He's not from L.A. He's not from Watts, he's from Clarksdale. So there's so many great people from this part of the country that have benefited the world. And Mr. Lunceford is one of these people. So we're going to do this in his memory, may his legacy forever live and go beyond the grave. And so the other generations may know that we do have a past that's not always traumatized, that's not always sensationalized. Because sometimes to tell the truth about a person or the situation is to do a revolutionary act. So anybody want to say anything or sing or whatever? Anybody, say anything. Hold your peace. Anybody hold your peace. All right. Jimmie, he was a teetotaler, dude. He didn't drink, I don't think. You know what I like about Jimmie Lunceford? I'm going to say this. I had talked to Bill Cosby. I know, what the hell Bill Cosby got to do with Jimmie Lunceford? I talked to him last summer for 30. I never thought I'd talk to Bill Cosby. It's Bill Cosby. It's like I talked to him the day after my uncle died. My great uncle was Uncle James French Sr. He owned and ran the oldest black-owned newspaper in the state of South Carolina at the time, the Charleston Chronicle. Unfortunately, it died with him that summer. He almost made it to 95. The paper almost made it to 50. God had other plans. But he was telling me, Bill, tell me what you do. You save, don't sell the house. Save all the papers. Save the archives. They're gonna be worth a lot of things. Tell the people don't sell them. Okay, man. All right. Said don't throw away our stories. But Bill Cosby said this. He said the revolution starts in the home. He still said that. This is like after he got out of prison. He said the revolution it starts in the home, and we got to be the stewards of our own stories. He said once it gets to the Hollywood level, it's out of your hands. You become an invisible or marginalized character in your own story. We see it happen time and time again. So may the legacy of Jimmie Lunceford be forever told on our terms, because he is ours. And they can never Me Too Jimmie Lunceford. Everybody either dead, got Alzheimer's, or they have dementia. They can't recall nothing. So he's safe. They ain't gonna Me Too him. They can't Me Too. Now, I'm gonna leave that alone. But yeah, it's cool. Thank y'all for coming out and bearing the rain. And whatever you're going through, know that God is real. Yes. And God is real. Whatever that is to you. Like I said, I went to Sister Thea Bowman's grave, and she's on her way becoming a saint. And I had some real COVID-like stuff earlier. Started praying, started playing her music, and I felt better, like within 24 hours.
Where's she located?
She right there. You can't miss her. She was buried next to her parents. It's like that big, it's very distinguished. It's right down here. It's right, not right down, it's like in the middle. It's right, like I was telling her, like, yeah, I ain't know that Jimmie Lunceford's best friend, H.D. Whalen, the patriarchal Whalen found was buried there till a couple months ago. And he died in a car accident after singing at his funeral on July 21st, 1947. 10 days after Jimmie died, so.
And you said that mausoleum is a black millionaire?
Yeah, that's Robert Church. Now, his daughter was one of the first black women to get a college degree, Mary Church Terrell. She spoke several different languages fluent. She spoke German and French, all this stuff. She could say that well, it's smooth. And her husband, like he was one of the first black folks, I think, to graduate from Harvard Law School, Robert Terrell. He was a judge in D.C. But she led sit-ins and stuff. She desegregated D.C. because they resegregated D.C. when Woodrow Wilson came into office. back in 1912 or 1913. He resegregated, but he had got into office on the black vote. So it's like, Woodrow, Biden, who cares, right? But she was fighting till she was in her 90s to desegregate D.C. And she was a guest of honor in the White House before she died for her birthday. I think at the Eisenhower White House. They say Eisenhower mom was passing too. Y'all heard about Eisenhower mom? You look at younger pictures of her, she light-skinned, whatever. Even Jefferson Davis, the guy who got his statue took down Davis Park, look at his wife pictures. She real dark. Like Attn, whatever you call it. It's funny how this race stuff work when you in love. Make all type of excuses. But like I said, a lot of black history is buried right here in this section alone. In this community, a lot of black history. So I want to thank y'all. Yeah, we making history right now. I want to thank Maurice White went to Booker T. Washington. Don't let the people in Chicago tell you different. They want to claim everybody. You come to Chicago, use the restroom at the truck stop, you ours now. You came from here. Nah, he came from Booker T. Washington. It's Booker T. Washington on Maurice found on Earth, Wind, and Fire. So thank y'all for coming out. And I guess that's it. We'll take some photos. You got questions. Thank y'all. I guess we could play happy birthday or some shit. Play happy birthday? Yeah.
You and Paul got that. You stay right there.
Okay. Move it out the way.
All three of y'all.
I don't want to mess it up.
Now you gonna mess it up. I'll move this water out the way.
I got a cricket right now.
Yeah, I'm going.
Mama, I got a cricket. Okay. You think Paul's birthday, so.
It's your birthday too. Hey, it's Miss Paula's birthday too. June 6th, the birthday of James. We'll play happy birthday.
I'm gonna let you do that. I don't want to miss it.
Hey, I don't know. You follow me. You can't mess up nothing. Thank you for coming. I appreciate it.
You want all of us up there?
Okay. Get him.
All right.
That's right.
I was doing for birthday along with him.
Cheers. It's a birthday today?
No.
you play for him? Come on here and play for him. You don't really come do something. You should play for him, man. You should play for him.
Hold on.
I got you.
I also want to say this too. Cause we're on in Lucy Campbell. You know, Dr. King, people always say, well, who y'all think Dr. King's favorite singer was?
Oh,
That last,
Huh?
that last,
Talking about Etta James? Now, some people say Mahalia Jackson, but it was a dude from South Memphis named J. Robert Bradley. He was trained by Lucy Campbell, the mother of gospel music who taught the Booker T. Watts for decades. But Mahalia Jackson said once he sang Amazing Grace, nobody could do it better. It's all best off. J. Robert Bradley. He died in 2007 in Nashville, but he was Dr. King's favorite singer. And what was I gonna say? You know, Lucy Campbell also trained Mary Anderson and Mahalia Jackson. Like she debuted her nationally at the National Baptist Convention, and also she helped train Mahalia Jackson. You got Dr. Brewster, who was Elvis's favorite preacher. He used to go to East Trigg Avenue on Sundays, listen to his choir sing. He wrote the song "Move On Up a Little Higher." You know that Mahalia Jackson made famous. I won't give him credit for it. That's another story from her. Got to talk to his great granddaughter about it. But
I'm just amazed by all this that you know.
it don't do me no good though.
It does. You know, just by these people, me being here.
Are you a musician?
I'm a photographer, so it's inspiring me because we've talked about it's coming up 100 years on the Harlem Renaissance. That was all about black art. So I'm thinking of putting together a photo shoot with black artists.
Oh, you should do that. Are you from here?
Yeah. I was born here, but I lived in Virginia all the time.
That's cool. What's wrong with Virginia?
Yeah.
It's not for lovers. It's a street. It's a big old speed trap.
I know, right? It's Virginia.
It's for tickets. It's for tickets. Hey everybody, this is Brother Ron. I am asking you all to do me a big favor. Think about supporting the We All Be movement. Your donation is tax deductible. The We All Be Group Incorporated is a recognized 501c3. And I'm just asking you all because I want to keep on bringing y'all quality work through the way that I know how to do best. And I'm going to sing my praises and toot my horn. A lot of y'all were not hip to Dick Gregory until Brother Ron brought him on the We All Be platform, until that jingle review we did. Y'all seen another side of Judge Joe Brown, and Judge Joe Brown's message has been amplified. But it was We All Be that brought Judge Joe Brown to y'all back in 2014. And so many others. And we covered so many things. So help us out so we can help you all. Peace.